Hello, this is Pam. Today we're going to be talking about the best MS diet. And this is a very powerful diet that really helps us to recover from multiple sclerosis and other chronic diseases. So it's essential if we want to recover from chronic diseases. And I'll explain more about that in a few minutes. But I'm going to share the guidelines of the Live Disease-Free diet. Also, I'm going to share meal ideas, and I'm going to share some amazing successes of wellness champions that are on their journey to recover from MS and other chronic diseases right now as we speak. If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. I am so excited to share this talk with you, this presentation, because there is so much you can do with diet. Diet is really the foundation for recovery. It is the starting point. It is where you are really setting yourself up for success or failure. And there are so many different types of diets on the market, and it's really hard to know what kind of a diet is the best diet for whatever condition I'm dealing with. And so many of us, we get sick and we know intuitively that diet is going to be important. So we try all kinds of diets. There's paleo diet, there's Mediterranean diet, there's vegan diet, there's fruitarian, there's so many different diets. And how do we know what is the best diet to help us to feel the best and to help us to recover? The reason that this Live Disease-Free diet is so crucial is because it greatly reduces the food to parasites that are causing disease. So if you follow my work, you know that I've done a lot of different live events about different types of infections, different types of parasites that are linked to multiple sclerosis. And their favorite source of energy is carbohydrates and simple sugars. So as we decrease their favorite food, they are less active. And then we start to notice less inflammation. We start to feel a lot better. And I'm going to share some amazing successes. But in a general sense, our students usually first notice improvements with their bladder function. So a lot of people that are dealing with chronic disease, they might have bladder urgency. They may have regular urinary tract infections, getting up through the night, not sleeping then, which makes matters worse. And so by decreasing the carbs enough, that's the key, is enough, they go, oh my gosh, I used to get up 6 times a night and now I'm only getting up once or twice a night. And that can be in as little as 2 weeks. So there is so much power in this diet. It will help you more than any medication that's out there. And this is not something you have to pay for. I have all of our guidelines on our website, livediseasefree.com. You can go through them. You can start to change your diet. Actually, I usually do these live events every week. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, somebody from the general public just shared that he's walking better. And I believe his drop foot is better just from the diet. So yes, we want to treat the parasites. We want to treat the infections. But how wonderful is it when we can start to have symptom improvement in such a short time, like so quickly, like 1 to 3 weeks. And it really depends on how accurate you are with your carbs, because it's the only science is that parasites love carbohydrates. You decrease them enough and you will notice significant symptom improvements. And so bladder is number one. And then people notice spasticity starts to decrease. They also notice that they're sleeping better at night because they're not getting up through the night. So then their brain fog is starting to settle down. They're starting to have more energy, less fatigue because they're not so sleep deprived. Pain can decrease. So many symptoms can improve just with diet alone. Cognitive function, mood. So it's so worth it. You have to try it. And yes, I really appreciate Dr. Terry Walls with her paleo diet. She's not coming at it from the angle that we are. We're coming at it from the angle of what is causing multiple sclerosis. It's parasites. So it's a good start, the Walls protocol, but if you go a little lower, you will notice like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much better I feel. We still want to treat the parasites, and I do have steps on that. I've talked a lot about the steps we take to recover. I might touch on them at the end of this event as long as we have enough time, but I just wanted to make sure that I give you the basics. So let's talk about the diet. So I'm going to give you the guidelines really quickly. You'll find them on our livediseasefree.com website under research. There's a PDF, downloadable PDF. It's nice color, white and blue. You can put it in your kitchen, and it really helps you to stay on track. A really simple way to make sure you're eating the right foods that are not going to make those parasites more active and make you feel worse. So we avoid all sugars. We also avoid all sweeteners because we want to get rid of our sweet tooth. So we don't have stevia. We don't have the xylitol, different alcohol sugars. Some of them are not going to feed the parasites, but we want to get rid of our sweet tooth so that we're not craving sugar, so we're not going to go back to it after. But sugar definitely is like putting gas on a fire. If you eat sugar, it makes the parasites so active, producing a lot more poisons and causing a lot more symptoms. So this would also include processed carbohydrates, like all the white bread and all the cookies and the cakes and all of that. As far as fruit, we have fruit has sugar. Fruit is generally higher in sugar. It's nutritious. It has all kinds of vitamin C, etc., but it also is higher in sugar. So it's really important that we decrease the fruit while we're getting ready to treat and while we're treating. Otherwise, we are going to feed the parasites. They really don't care where the sugar comes from. If it's from fruit or cookies, it will feed them. So really important that something like a smaller kiwi or half a green apple or a quarter cup or an eighth of a cup of berries, it's really small. It's kind of like a taste. And some people are well, I don't even want to bother. And it just helps to decrease their carbs and makes them feel better. You can definitely supplement with ascorbic acid or vitamin C, natural vitamin C, to make sure that you get enough vitamin C, but it makes all these little fine adjustments make all the difference. We like lemon and lime, especially on different salads. If you're out visiting with friends and you have sparkling water with a squirt of lemon or lime in it, don't drink it all day because even though it's sour, lemon and lime, they are still higher in sugar. So if you're drinking lemon water all day, you're getting too many grams of carbs, which are going to feed the parasites. When I go over this, you're going to be thinking, oh, Pam, this is so ridiculously specific. But what I'm sharing with you is what hundreds of our students have done over the past, we're almost getting on 10 years now. And so we have a lot of experience as to what works and what doesn't work. And it's the small adjustments that make all the difference in how we feel. So fruit, very small serving, first thing in the morning, 30 minutes before a meal. So fruit is naturally higher in sugar. Even if you're having a green apple, it's still carbohydrates and sugar. So when you eat it by itself, your body can digest it better and it's not going to ferment. So fermentation means when, let's say if you eat some fruit with your meal and the sugar in your fruit didn't digest well and it's going down and reaching the microbes in your gut, they will eat it and they will produce gas. And that's what fermentation is. So they're feeding off of the sugars in the fruit. So if you have it first thing in the morning, about 30 minutes before a meal, what I do is I always just grab my fruit and then go do my chores or whatever I'm doing and then have breakfast after. Really helpful. Number 4 would be meat. So meat is fine on the Live Disease-Free diet, but it's really important that you're not having large amounts of meat. So for people that are doing carnivore diet, I understand that some people can't eat any vegetables because the vegetables make them feel ill because of the parasites that are in their intestines. They may not know that, but that's what it is. So if that's the case, you can follow a carnivore diet, but you will feel a lot better on the carnivore diet if you have more fat and only moderate amounts of meat. Don't eat like a 10-ounce steak at one sitting because your body can convert the excess protein into sugar, which will make your blood sugar go up, which will feed the parasites throughout your body. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't know that the body can convert excess protein to glucose. But when you're eating meat, just make sure that it is in its as close to its natural state as possible. So we don't want it soaked in brines. We don't want to eat sausage, ham, bacon, because usually they have fillers, they have sugar, they have honey added. And those small bits of honey or sugar in bacon, it can be enough where you're really not moving forward. You're not moving the needle. So it's fine to like buy either ground beef or pork or chicken or turkey and make your own patties, make your own sausages, freeze them, meatballs. All of that is fine, but just make sure that the meat has not been altered by humans. So that's really important. And you're having moderate amounts of meat. So for a woman, about 3 to 4 ounces. For a man, about 4 to 6 ounces. Like, it's kind of like what makes you feel like you're satisfied. But anything over that is at one meal is going to make your blood sugar go up. And then you're going to go, oh, I don't really notice any difference on the diet because the parasites are happy. The parasites will live on your normal blood sugar levels. And with this diet, what we're trying to do is we're keeping your blood sugar level steady. So that means that in the morning, like with breakfast, like you can have your little bit of fruit 30 minutes before a meal, but have breakfast, have some protein, have some fat that really stabilizes your blood sugar. It gives you energy. It gives you a clear mind. And then you can have low carb vegetables with that also. So it's the fat and the protein that really make you feel satisfied and make you feel like more stronger and better mental clarity. All of that is really important. And we're having the protein to maintain our muscle mass. So animal protein is really important. It is totally healthy. It is not bad for you. Try to get good quality animal protein. If you're eating fish a lot, make sure you rotate different fish. And I personally, what I do now is I take a handful of chlorella tablets when I'm eating fish because I just hear so much about the toxins that are in our oceans. So all of that is fine, but just make sure that you're not eating too much meat and you're eating the meat. And you can have it 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and supper. I like eggs for breakfast. If you're really allergic to eggs, then you can have whatever leftovers you have in the fridge that are meat leftovers. So eggs are healthy. They're not going to cause cholesterol. Cholesterol is produced when we have a lot of inflammation in the body, and cholesterol is produced to protect our blood vessels from the inflammation. And the inflammation is your immune system is fighting something. What is it fighting? Some kind of infection, some kind of microbe. Usually that's what the case is. You could have a toxin if you lived in a really toxic environment, but it's usually to do with different types of microbes. And when our students eat eggs every day and eat meat, but they're low carb, their cholesterol normalizes. And if they were on cholesterol medication before they joined the program, they're able to come off of it. Their blood pressure normalizes. So if you have cholesterol and blood pressure issues, make sure to monitor that, because as you're following this diet, you will find, if you're following it properly, you will find that those numbers will improve to the point where your medication may be too strong. Next, I mentioned eggs. So all types of eggs are fine. Try not to buy the eggs that are like mixed already, that just eggs in a shell is best. You can make an omelet, you can make fried eggs, boiled eggs, whatever you like is totally fine. We would avoid all egg substitutes. As far as dairy, we avoid all dairy except for butter. This has been known for years and years when people have chronic disease that dairy is pro-inflammatory, meaning that the parasites that we have are feasting on the milk sugar, but there's also something about the milk protein that's very similar to the protein in gluten. And if we're sensitive to gluten, we'll be sensitive to milk protein also. And it's really common to be sensitive to gluten when we have these parasites. So just avoid all dairy for now. It's not that you can't ever have it. These are all short-term adjustments so that you can get ready to treat. And then once you feel really well, you can make the decision, like, do I want this back in my life or not? Maybe like there's many things that I never brought back into my life. I don't drink coffee because I don't even like the taste of it anymore. I never have alcohol because it doesn't taste that good as when I used to have a glass of wine years ago, and it would be like, oh, this is so nice. And now if I had a sip, it's like, could take it or leave it. And so this is where you can really start to break free of these different cravings. And then when you feel really well and you've got all these goals and ambitions and things you want to do and family and traveling and whatever it is in your life, maybe it's work related, then you might think, oh, those kind of things are holding me back. I just want to be free. And it is really free when you don't have to step on a scale to, that you're always at your ideal weight, when you don't have the ups and downs of like low energy and then you're buzzing from caffeine. That's, to me, is really important. And honestly, I know that alcohol is a mycotoxin. I know that my liver has to break it down. I don't think it tastes that good anymore. So I don't drink alcohol. And I still have a really good time. I don't feel like I'm limited at all. But that's my personal choice. And you can make your own personal decisions once you're well, right? You'll be able to decide, well, maybe I'll have it once in a while, or no, I don't need it. Like, I don't want it in my life. Your taste buds and your values will change as you follow this plan. That's what happens with students all the time. Let's talk about vegetables. So we want to have vegetables that are low in carbohydrates. Very important. I was going to say, type your questions in the question box. I will come back and answer them. But vegetables can be stir-fried, sautéed, oven roasted, or steamed. You don't have to eat raw vegetables. So if you have like a lot of gut pain, maybe you have diarrhea, irritable bowel, if you need to cook your vegetables, that's fine. It's the types of vegetables you're eating. So we're not having peas and potatoes and corn. We're having things like broccoli and cauliflower and string green beans and yellow beans and asparagus. And there's a huge list of vegetables that we can have. So the lower carb. If you can't eat salads, listen to your body. Don't eat them right now. What we find is that when you eat the vegetables that agree with you, that are really low carb, and you allow the gut to, actually one of the students that I'm going to share today, that's what she did. Just literally within, I think, 9 days, the diarrhea stopped and then she could start eating raw vegetables. And especially when you start treating, you'll notice you can start eating raw vegetables again also. But it's the dysbiosis in our gut that causes us to not digest vegetables. So I know that there is this big craze with a specific type of diet. They're saying plants are toxic. I do not believe that at all. These people, like the carnivore diet, I have nothing against it. A person should eat whatever diet they want. I love meat, so it's not an issue with that. But to say that plants are toxic, that is not the case, because people have been eating different types of plants forever. So what's different now? It is our gut microbiome is so out of balance. And when people that I work with that are on the carnivore diet, they start treating, they can start to incorporate other foods. And I don't believe that anybody really wants to be on a carnivore diet because it's so restrictive. It's a lot more restrictive than this diet. They'd rather have some variety with their food. And so if it's helping you, if it's making you feel like I can cope, my symptoms are better, great. Stick with it if you want, but just know that it's the parasites that are causing you to feel that way. And if you want, and the problem is they don't go away on a carnivore diet either. So that's why we need to treat them. And when you treat them, then you'll go, oh, I can have a few other foods and it doesn't bother me anymore. So really important because it adds a lot more fun nutrition to our diet. Beverages. Water. Drink filtered water, really important. Make sure that your water does not have fluoride added to it. Different municipally treated water does. And then also, if I'm out socializing, I'll have a naturally caffeine-free tea, or I will have sparkling water. There are different types of waters that, again, avoid all of the alcohol, like the xylitol and different alcohol sugars and stevia, just because you want to get rid of your sweet tooth so that you're not controlled by that anymore. Like I know that there are some, I think they're called Coke sodas or something that our grandkids like, and my kids buy them for them. They're not going to make their blood sugar go up, but to me, they taste gross. So I like that. I would much rather have sparkling water with fresh lemon or fresh lime, put mint leaves in it, and I'm so happy. It tastes so good. And even some of these other bubbly, like bubbly and LaCroix, they're fine. But when they say natural flavor, I don't know what that means, because when I was in university, we would make all kinds of flavors like banana and pineapple, peach and strawberry by using organic, like carbon type chemicals. So if they're thinking that a natural flavor is because it came from carbon, eventually then that's not really, it's not from a strawberry, it's not from a peach. So I'm just not sure. Occasionally fine, but I personally wouldn't drink those every day. Well, even just the sparkling water is going to be harder on your enamel. So I personally would not drink sparkling water all the time. It's literally when I'm visiting with friends on a weekend, and that's not even every weekend. Or tea. There are so many teas that are so lovely. We're going into spring now, so you can actually make tea and put it in your fridge and chill it. So there is many like rooibos teas. I really like peppermint, and there's spearmint, and there's lemon ginger. Just be aware that there are some teas that taste really sweet to your tongue. Don't drink those when you're trying to get ready to treat or recovering. So the tea should not taste sweet at all. And there are tons and tons of really nice, lovely teas. I'm trying to think, passion tea is one that's really nice to put in the fridge. I don't know if it's from Tazo, but it's like a deep purple and you can put it in the fridge and chill it. I personally just drink water a lot because I have a lot of other things on the go that I'm more focused on. But those are some different options. And we would avoid all caffeine. Even decaffeinated coffee and decaffeinated tea contain some caffeine, and those parasites are so small that they do not need a lot of caffeine to stimulate them. The whole goal of the prep phase in the Live Disease-Free plan is to follow the diet and support the body to decrease inflammation, to make sure people are feeling so much better and healthier and stronger before they start treating. And caffeine will activate and stimulate parasites. So that's why we want zero residue of caffeine in anything that we're eating or drinking while we are recovering. Important. No grains. So it doesn't matter if it's amaranth, if it's quinoa. There's so many different grains that are healthy, but we do avoid them until we are healed, until we feel like more than a normal person, like we feel better than we felt in years, we've recovered. Because when we have this dysbiosis, we have this parasitic infestation, the biggest part of it is in our gut, in our intestines. When we eat grains, we are not digesting the disaccharides. We're not digesting the carbohydrates well, so it becomes food for the parasites in our gut. This includes rice and quinoa and millet and amaranth and I'm trying to think what else, any type of grain. Flax, like chia seeds, when you soak chia seeds, you've noticed that you can make like a chia pudding, right, from it, and that's the carbohydrates that become softened from the water. So we would not have any of that because that all is a really wonderful food for the parasites. So it is low carb vegetables and enough, so low carb vegetables to give us our nutritional needs, enough healthy fat to maintain our weight, and moderate amounts of animal protein with each meal. So this meal is incredibly satisfying. And it can be really tasty, but you have to plan a little bit because if we're not used to this kind of way of eating, then we don't have recipes in the top of our brain and we're just like, oh, I don't know what to eat. So this is why it's really important to take just a few minutes at the end of the week or beginning of the week, whenever you go shopping or before you go shopping, and just make a list of, okay, what are we going to eat this week? Make sure you have those ingredients, you have the protein, you have the vegetables, you have the herbs. So the herbs can add so much flavor to what we eat. You can have all of the fresh herbs that now we're going into springtime. And then the vegetables now we're going into springtime where we can start buying vegetables from local farms. There's so much more flavor in vegetables that you purchase from local producers than if you got it from another country or that's coming in, into the big commercial grocery stores. Those vegetables are also much lower in nutrition. So that's why it's really important to buy local vegetables. Like we have a couple that we have been going to every year. And I don't have a lot of time. So I go once a week and I just load up on a ton of vegetables and my whole fridge is full of vegetables. It's quite funny because they're like, wow. And it's just for my husband and I. And then we eat that during the week. So you can make a big salad that could last you for 3 or 4 days. But the produce that is grown and then it's picked picked maybe the day before or the day that you pick it up. It has a beautiful smell to it. It has a lot of flavor. It has a lot more nutrition, and it is so much better for our body. And of course, try to find farms where they use little to no pesticides. Ideally, it'd be nice with no pesticides, but we have some here that use really minimal, if any. So the vegetables, really important to have a variety of vegetables so that you're getting different types of vitamins. But things that we would avoid are potato, like white potato, sweet potato. We would avoid legumes, dried beans, and peas. So anything that a vegetable that it kind of fills you up and it kind of sticks to your ribs, we would avoid that while we are getting ready to treat and while we're treating. This is what makes all the difference. So yes, the rice, the pasta, quinoa, amaranth, corn, wheat, millet, oats, barley, all of that is omitted while we are getting ready to treat and while we're treating. And so then also the yeast products. So I know that there's some brewer's yeast, there's different types of supplements where we can get different mushrooms, and that's been popular over the last few years. But when we have these parasites that are worms and protozoa and bacteria, we always have fungal overgrowth also. So our body has been just taxed by this and become sensitive to the chemicals they produce, the metabolites they produce. So this is why it's really important to, I think, again, keep it simple at the start, and then you will see what's working and what isn't. So I don't recommend any mushroom supplements at the start, because what if the fungus that's growing in you can benefit from the components that you're swallowing and eating of the other mushrooms, because they're kind of like, they're not microorganisms, but they're like different fungi. So they would need some of the same building blocks. So your body might be sensitive to different fungal components too. So take all the fungus out of your diet. You probably have enough in your body. Just get well. And then once you're well, if you want to take certain medicinal mushrooms and try and see. But anyone that I've worked with that came to me and started the program and they're taking mushroom supplements, they're still really sick. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. Yes, I do know that there are some mushrooms that do have certain things like glyconutrients in them that are helpful, but it's not concentrated in them. So that is the problem. It's just a small amount. And when you're really infested, it really doesn't make that big of a difference that I have seen. Maybe a slight difference for some people, but it's not worth not knowing if you're going to be improving or not, or just being, stuck. So it's really important to be moving forward. So keep things really simple. Avoid all different types of yeast. So that alcohol would be another, with wine and beer, there's a lot of yeast in that. Breads and mushrooms and pastries and alcohol, they could contain yeast products. So we would avoid those, or fungal products, and supplements also. As far as vinegar, what is the safest is just to have apple cider vinegar if you want. I personally felt the best on just fresh lemon or fresh lime squeezed on my salad. I love that the best. But some people like the apple cider vinegar, and that's fine. But avoid all other vinegars, avoid pickles, soy sauce, avoid that. Olives and vinegar, avoid those too. Salad dressings, just make your own. Put some extra virgin olive oil, put some fresh lemon or lime. We avoid all alcohol products because, again, it's a mycotoxin. When we have chronic disease, we have fungal overgrowth. Our liver is already working hard to break down different toxins and alcohols produced by these parasites. So we don't want to burden our liver anymore. Fermented foods, the only food we start with that's fermented is raw sauerkraut. And raw sauerkraut, that is, especially if it is a wild ferment, meaning that if it's made or if you make it, the cabbage is chopped up. You could add possibly a little bit of something for color, whether it's kale or just start simple, but just cabbage. But you could add, a little bit of grated carrot or kale into that just for color down the road when you've practiced. But chop it up. There's many, many recipes online. Let it ferment in your home. Then you are going to get this huge diversity of health promoting microbes, many of which we probably don't know what they are, but that is the safest way to start to repopulate your gut with the health promoting microbes. We would avoid kimchi and kefirs and kombucha at the start, because some of them do contain more yeast also. When you do start with raw sauerkraut, start with small amounts. Start with, let's say, a teaspoon. Make sure that you tolerate it, because when you have a lot of parasites in your gut and you're starting to eat good microbes, there could be a little bit of warfare going on. So just make sure you start low and slow. But it's something that's really tolerated well, and it's the most health promoting food you can eat. It's the raw, especially if it's homemade sauerkraut, so that you know how it was made. Some of us are too disabled at the start to do that, but you can do that later when you're feeling a lot better. So the target is working up to 9 to 13 servings of low carb vegetables a day. What does that look like? It's about 3 platefuls of vegetables. No, not like tiny little plates, but brimming platefuls. And having a variety of low carb vegetables is going to give you different nutrients. So that's going to really provide for you your nutritional needs. Moderate amounts of animal protein. I already talked about the amounts. And then also enough healthy fat to make sure that you're keeping your weight on. Because as you decrease the calories from carbohydrates, you are increasing the fat calories. And fat calories are more dense, so they're going to give you the energy. They're going to keep your weight on, and so will the protein. There will still be carbohydrates in the vegetables. We're trying to keep them down below 50 total grams of carbs per day. But if you really want to test this and see how much symptom improvement you can have, if you get it down to 30 to 40, closer to 30, you'll be going like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much better I feel. So that 30 total grams of carbs seems to be a really big sweet spot. If you're over 50 total grams of carbs, which is still low carb, you're not going to really notice a big difference. It's because they have more than ample enough food for them. You can also check your work on a free app on your phone. It's called the Chronometer app. It's based on the USDA guidelines. So that is CRONO meter, Chronometer. And make sure to set it to total grams of carbs, because I think it's automatically set to net, and you want to include fiber and everything. So, and then you can, on a day when you're not as busy, you can just track. You don't have to do it every day, but just maybe on a day or two when you're not as busy, you can plunk in what you're eating that day, and it'll tell you how many total grams of carbs you're having. And then you'll see like, oh, wow, I'm in the target zone, or, oh my gosh, I have a little work to do. I'm a little bit too high. But that's a really useful tool. And make sure to include lots of healthy fats. So my mom mostly is from the generation where the doctor's like, oh, fat is causing cholesterol, and egg yolks is, all of that is causing cholesterol. And it was just a big fat lie. And what happened is people substituted fat for sugar, and then now they're obese and they still have cholesterol issues. So the key is to have enough healthy fat to maintain your weight. So our students are having at least 4 tablespoons of fat with each meal. It's not a lot. Like if you put a couple of tablespoons on your salad, maybe you put some butter on your vegetables or on your meat, and you're done. Another really nice thing is homemade mayonnaise. So you can, I don't know where we have it. We might have it somewhere. I'll figure out some place to put it. Maybe I'll put it down on our Live Disease-Free Diet Guidelines page. But there's so many different mayonnaise recipes. But our students love homemade mayonnaise because you can make it like a spicy mayo dip where you can dip meat in it. You can also make like a ranch type dressing for vegetables. You can make it a little bit runnier for Caesar salad dressing. You could add a little bit of anchovies, a little bit more garlic. So it's really versatile. You could make it once a week, and you can increase your fat in a way that you really thoroughly enjoy it. And so you could have low carb vegetables with that, and not, like a lot of people might think, well, I'll just have nuts. And if you eat a lot of nuts and seeds, you'll find you don't feel well, because nuts are harder to digest, and then they are really high in carbohydrates also. So eating too many nuts and seeds during the day, you won't notice any improvement with your health. So if you're having a very small amount of nuts or seeds for a snack once or twice a day before supper, and I'm talking like 1/8 of a cup, like ridiculously small, and chew it really well, then you might be fine. But if you're not noticing improvements, I would skip the nuts and seeds. Another place where students run into problems if they're having too much, so things like avocado carrots, peppers, and tomatoes. So those kind of vegetables or fruit, like tomatoes are fruit, you can have them as a garnish on a large salad. We're not going to have a serving of peppers or tomatoes or avocado or carrots. We're just having a garnish to give you some, different flavor, color, but too much of them will give you too many grams of carbs. You'll see when you use a Chronometer app how many grams of carbs are in different foods, and you'll be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. And then, so the different types of fats, organic, cold pressed is always best. Non-hydrogenated, right? You want to get it as like not heated up, so as close to its natural state as possible also. But extra virgin olive oil is super healthy. It is a little bit of a stronger taste. So you could also have avocado oil, and you can have coconut butter, you can have butter or ghee. And that'll give you a few, and there's also MCT oil, so you can get a good quality MCT oil, and it has virtually no flavor. You could put it on salads, you can put it in tea. Some people put it in tea because they don't even notice the flavor of it. If you suffer with inflammatory bowel disease, it's really important that you listen to your body and you do not just try to eat a bunch of raw vegetables if it's making you sick. Like, cook the vegetables that agree with you, steam, oven roast, stir fry, or saute the vegetables that agree with you, that are low carb, and you'll notice that inflammatory bowel, the diarrhea, the pain, it'll start to settle down. And then especially as you start treating, you'll notice that is completely resolved. And then in a general sense, there's some videos on what I eat, but in a general sense, I usually have a lot of greens for breakfast. Like, I like arugula. I switch things up. So arugula or spinach, because you don't want to have the same thing every day. Soft or baby kale, or if it's a little tougher, I'll kind of rub it. That might be too strong for you. Then you could just saute the kale with some onions. It's really good. So I'll have a lot of greens, and I will have a couple of eggs, and I like raw sauerkraut with breakfast, and lots of extra virgin olive oil on that. And that'll keep me full for at least 3 hours. And then I will usually I'm working, so I'll just grab a small amount of nuts, but I'm not having to recover like you are, but that's what I'll have for my snack. And then, or else the vegetables with the mayonnaise. I like to make this spicy, even for dipping with vegetables. I like a hot spice. To me, that's delicious. And then I'll have lunch. It's usually a really big salad, a plate full of salad, and I'll have whatever leftover protein is in the fridge. Right now, I barbecued a few chicken breasts, so I'll slice that up and put it on the salad. And then for supper, I will have, and when I say salad, it's like a plate full. It takes time to chew, but you'll find that when you're adding lots of fat and the lemon juice or lime juice or apple cider vinegar, and you eat all of that, you'll feel quite satisfied for a few hours. And then again in the afternoon, I'll have either the mayo with the vegetables, or I will have the small amount of nuts. And then supper, I like warmed up vegetables. So this is where they're steamed or they're stir fried. There's the lovely Chinese vegetables also, like bok choy and su choy, all of those. So you can have so much fun with flavors like ginger, turmeric, basil, thyme, rosemary. There's so many different spices and flavors, but just be careful with your spice mixes that they do not contain fillers, and because that can actually, you can feel that with the parasites. So very often I will make my own. I'll just go on Google and I'll look for a recipe for, let's say, a taco seasoning spice mix, and then I will just mix, so many tablespoons of each, whether it's paprika or cumin and salt and pepper and what else we put in there? Sometimes oregano and a chili powder. So then you have this mix and you know what's in it. Really simple, probably a lot cheaper. And then you can pick a recipe that has a lot of good reviews on it, so it can be really tasty. I've done herb Provence. I've made my own of that. Done chicken rubs for the barbecue, for the Traeger, for example. When I did the chicken breast last night, I literally just took a little bit of oil. If you're doing high heat, it's better to use avocado oil than extra virgin olive oil because it's not heat stable. And then I don't even measure it. I just put a little bit of onion powder in it. I put a little bit of garlic powder in it, because I'm in a rush. So it's a little bit of rosemary, thyme, salt, and pepper, and I mix it up, paprika sometimes. And then once we're getting closer towards the end of barbecuing chicken breasts, then I will baste that on top of them. And it is so delicious. And it's so simple. All of these things will come as you start to make the changes, and it will help you to get ready to treat, to recover. But then it increases the number of quality years you'll have for the rest of your life. So make sure to refer to the cheat sheet, which you'll find on livediseasefree.com under research, then under the Live Disease Free guidelines, and you will find all of this information here, this cheat sheet. And listen to your body. When you have these parasites, we develop sensitivities to foods, to pollen, to all kinds of things. So if there's a food that you know you're sensitive to, make sure to avoid it. There is something called the Coca Pulse test that you could test. Like if you're like, every time I eat eggs, I'm just not sure. I kind of feel like they're bothering me. I'm not sure though. You can look up the Coca Pulse test online, and you check your resting heart rate first thing in the morning. Do that 2 or 3 times to make sure that you're doing it accurately, and you'll be able to tell if it's bothering you. And if something is like lightly bothering you, but you don't really get any big reaction, have it once every 4 or 5 days. Don't have it every day, and you'll find that you tolerate things better that way. If I eat like a couple of vegetables that are cooked or stir-fried, sauteed, oven roasted with supper with the meat, if I'm still a little bit hungry, then I'll have some more greens, right? And whenever there's olive oil on my plate, I scoop it up with a spoon. It's mixed with a little bit of lemon juice or lime juice. I scoop it up and I swallow it because it's expensive and it gives me calories, it gives me energy. Again, be really careful with things like bacon or ham. They usually have sugar added, like 9 out of 10, they have sugar added. An avocado is higher in fat, but it still is fairly high in carbohydrates. So we would only have a slice or two, like from a half an avocado, take 1 or 2 slices, so not even a quarter or maybe a quarter of an avocado on a very large salad would be fine. But don't just eat a half an avocado because that's going to give you a lot of carbs at one sitting. It's also the amount of carbs you're eating at one sitting. That's really important. We talked about nuts. That's a really big one because sometimes people are not prepared. They don't have food ready in the fridge and they're starving to death. So they just like, I'll just grab a handful of nuts and I'll just grab another handful of nuts. And they're going to lose weight that way. And the nuts will make them feel terrible. But there are certain nuts that we would avoid, like peanuts and pistachios while we are recovering. But what I like to do is I just go to Costco and I buy like a big bag of pecans, filberts, walnuts, things like that. And I just keep them in the freezer and take out small amounts at a time so they stay fresh. And that way they have not been altered at all. Like even if you buy almonds that are supposed to be roasted and just sea salt, you never know if there's a tiny little bit of sweetener added to it. They're notorious for adding a little bit, and if it's small enough amount, they may not have to put it on the label. This is where these small adjustments make all the difference. And if your symptoms are not improving, omit the nuts. Don't have any. Some people like to have smoked salmon, especially on a special occasion. Make sure to read the ingredients because smoked salmon sometimes has added sugar to it. It's fine to have homemade chicken soup occasionally if you're improving. So we have to remember that or know that when let's say when you're sick and you are getting a throat culture, and it's going to a lab to see if you have strep throat or tonsillitis or bronchitis, those labs will use broth to grow bacteria in it. So the ingredients in broth are really good for bacteria and possibly other parasites. So this is why, even if it's homemade and you know that there's no sugar in it, but if you're having homemade soup, chicken soup from broth from scratch that you made, you haven't added any sugar, no yeast, etc., and you're just not getting better, you're not improving, take the soup out and see if you start improving, because very often that's the case. There's a lot of collagen in bone broth, and parasites like Borrelia that causes Lyme disease loves collagen. So that's another thing, is for supplementing with collagen. Do not do that when you're trying to recover from parasites because you're feeding the problem. So high doses of B vitamins, high doses of vitamin D, also the collagen, all of those things we do not do while we are getting ready to treat and treating. And we talked about at least 3 to 4 tablespoons of healthy fat with your meals. There is a way that you can actually calculate how much calories you need. I'm trying to go from memory here. So basically you look online with your age, your activity level, your gender, and you'll see, let's say 2,000 calories per day. Divided by half, so that's 1,000 calories per day. So you're going to get half of your calories from fat, and then you divide that by, I can't remember how many, you can look to see how many calories are per tablespoon, for example. And so you can take those calories and you can divide it by calories per tablespoon, and then you can find out roughly how much fat you need to maintain your weight. And everybody's different. Some people are really sick, but they're doing construction work still. And other people are sitting behind a desk all day, like I am a lot of the time, not all the day, but quite a bit of the time. And so you're not going to burn as many calories then. But if you don't want to lose weight, it's really important to make sure you're adding enough. Your plates should be full of food. And let me backtrack. If you're just starting and you're really sick and you have nausea and you eat like a sparrow because you just don't have an appetite, start eating this way. And then you're going to notice your appetite is going to start coming back. And then you can start to increase the amounts of what you're eating so that you're not going to lose any weight. We would never have fruit twice a day. Again, fruit is first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, so it can be digested well, and then it's not going to ferment in your intestines. It's not going to be feeding the parasites in your intestines. Carrots, again, that's a root vegetable. Any of these root vegetables, they are a garnish, not a serving, because they're too high in natural sugars and carbohydrates. Incorporating more leafy greens with your meals really helps to keep the carbs down. Leafy greens are the lowest in carbohydrate, and so they really help to keep your carbs into that target zone of trying to keep it down to 30 total grams of carbs per day. All right. There's so many nice teas. I know that there's one tea, it's called Tega, and it tastes like Earl Grey, and it's organic, it's naturally caffeine free. That's what you're looking for, is naturally caffeine free, not decaffeinated, because there still will be some caffeine in there. And it's important not to eat spinach every day. Like, switch your vegetables, because the high oxalic acid in spinach can be hard on your thyroid. So if that's all you're eating, and also like in those plastic containers, there's not as much nutrition. If we're disabled and maybe it's what we can access, we definitely are going to use that, but try to switch it up, try to get different types of greens, especially more of the mature ones, because that way you're going to have a lot more nutrition. So we would not have like steak and fish. We would not have eggs and meat with one meal. That would be too much protein. We talked about how that can be converted to glucose. The nice thing is when you're using the Chronometer app, you'll see that some vegetables like Brussels sprouts, cabbage, they might be a little higher in carbs. So you're not going to eat like half a plate full of cabbage, because that would be too many grams of carbs at that time. But you might have like a green salad, and you might sprinkle some shredded cabbage on top of that. Or you might have a smaller serving of maybe a half a cup of Brussels sprouts. So you can have them, but you really want to make sure that you're getting into the target zone, because that's where the magic happens. That's where we notice, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much better I feel. So there's 3 students I wanted to share with you. So these are successes they've shared with me. So yesterday we had our live Q&A call, and they always share their success. So these successes are shared around diet. So the first student is in the program right now, and she said, I started the Live Disease-Free diet last Thursday. It has been 9 days so far. The inside tremors that I would feel when I would lay down, they have stopped. My energy is better. It's not normal, but it's better. My stomach has stopped hurting along with the diarrhea. So she no longer has diarrhea in just 9 days of following this program, the diet. And my sleep has started to improve also. I have been pleasantly surprised at how satisfied I feel on this diet. It is a very satisfying diet. You can eat whenever you want. You don't have to starve yourself. You can have a variety of food. You can have a variety of different types of flavors. It's very awesome. It's super fresh. It's simple to cook. Once you get used to eating this way, you won't go back to the old way and then it's even hard, what I find, is to eat in restaurants because, you have the standard of what the flavor should taste like and you get disappointed a lot and you spend a lot. Like, restaurants are so expensive now, we rarely eat out just because it's disappointing. So this next student is in the program right now too. So quite new, I would say in the last not even 3 weeks. And she shared, before starting, she had terrible mobility issues, could barely walk. Her left hand wouldn't work at all. She had spasms in her brain, her eye, and her face that just a few days before. And she tried so many different things and she was not getting relief. So she had to take a migraine because all of these symptoms, the spasms in the brain, eye, and face would lead to a migraine. So she took a migraine medication because nothing else was working, but she didn't like that because it also contained caffeine. But anyhow, so she did that. And then she started the diet and I gave her feedback because that's what I do with the students. I support them through the whole process, getting ready to treat and treating. So when they think they're following the diet properly, then I give them feedback. And so I gave her a few adjustments. So she started to make the changes and she gave me an update saying, I'm following the Live Disease-Free diet 100%. And I felt fantastic yesterday. I was able to work 8.5 hours with my husband going up and down the ladder to hang lights on the outside of our house. That is a huge change, right? And again, it's been maybe 2 weeks. And so then I got another update for her. So that was just from the diet alone. And then also she is starting to do the enemas. So the oxidizing enemas that I talked about, we can start them at any time. And she did, I think, 5 of them now. So between the diet and 5 oxidizing enemas, and they're not perfect, they're not huge enemas. She's just figuring it out, learning it all. But she said, this is how I feel. So this is what I got in yesterday. My legs are having way less spasms. My left arm ache is minimal. I'm able to type with my left hand and use it pretty well. My balance is improving. So is the vertigo. I haven't had a headache since my first enema. I had 8 hours of sleep most nights. And also, if I ever wake up, I'm able to fall back asleep and sleep for another hour. And she said the pain on my side back had stopped after the first enema. Then it came back again, but then I did a second enema and now it is minimal. So she has only just started to clear parasites out of her large intestine. Well, first of all, decreasing the food to them, making them more quiet, and then starting to move them out of the large intestine. They are mostly inhabiting the small intestine, and we cannot reach enemas in that area. That's why we do need to use parasite drugs and also herbs to reach that area. But have you ever heard of a medication that can help this much in 2 weeks' time? This diet helps more than anything. I just want everybody to know about it because please share this with other people that you know are looking for an answer, even to start feeling better. So this is student number 3. So this is a student who does not have MS, but he has starting to get a lot of neurological symptoms and was being tested for MS. And they, didn't get the diagnosis yet, but he's like, I don't want a diagnosis. So he shared that his migraines, brain fog, headaches, memory issues, mood issues, fatigue, insomnia, they have all improved significantly in the past 4 weeks since starting the Live Disease-Free diet. This is the beginning of my 6th week on the diet plan, and everything seems to be really great. As I said earlier, the best that I have felt in 7 years in just 4 weeks of changing his diet. And he tried different diets. Many of you have probably tried vegan diet. You've tried all kinds of different diets. And so he did also. And this diet has made this much difference because this diet understands what you're dealing with, what's causing your symptoms. So he said, I feel energetic, focused. I have no anxiety, and I feel like I'm performing better at work. I still have some of the symptoms, but they are really low to non-existent. Isn't that amazing? I don't know. And this is when they start. And then the successes, like I was literally almost in tears yesterday hearing their successes. It's mind-boggling how, when you start to, I just wish all the doctors knew this, because what we see with our students in treating parasites and the improvements they can have week by week by week, it is truly miraculous. So I have the diet for free on my website, livediseasefree.com, under research in the main menu. Then go down to Live Disease-Free Diet Guidelines, start to change your diet, learn about the parasites, start looking for a practitioner that can help you. And if you don't find anyone that's talking like me, make sure to reach out. Watch my masterclass training first also, because then you'll know what questions to ask. Like if you're going, like one person I was talking with today that is going to join the program, and she's like working with her naturopath, and I'm like, what did he do for you? Well, it's like, these supplements, it's omega-3 and this supplement and that supplement. And I said, if your naturopath knew how to help you, if he knew you were infested with parasites, you wouldn't be calling me, because he would be treating parasites, but he doesn't know. So make sure you get the help that you need. We're here for you. If you watch the masterclass training and you feel that you would like support from us, you want to see if the program is a good fit for you, the Live Disease-Free plan, then you will fill out a form. You will get an email so you can go into more detail on the plan. You can meet with me and we can discuss to make sure it's a good fit for you. Other than that, please like, share, and subscribe if you find this information helpful. If you want to bless somebody else with changes to their diet that can really make a big difference in their life and in their health. With that, I'll let you guys go. Take care. Bye-bye for now.